Hello there everyone, my name is Christina and today I'm going to show you how to make this collar style statement necklace. And this is what it looks like. So you have the main part of the necklace is this braid running through, whereas the end I have some Kumihimo ends and there's just your lock and extended chain. And then I just embellish the braid with a few different things. Some chunky chain and then some beads. In this case I've used some purple coated hematite and then a crystal chain on the top, or like a rhinestone chain, it's called different things. So this is just one thing you can do. I've also got another example to show you. Now this is one I made where I made the braid black, otherwise it's the same at the top, and then I just added, again I added the chain and then I added some neon pink beads at the bottom, and then instead of adding the rhinestone chain at the top I added some small beads to embellish the top instead, and I made this section a little bit narrower. So it's just a different style. It just shows that you don't have to use the specific things that I'm going to show you. You can attach other things to the braid as well to make your statement necklace. But otherwise, these are the two examples. And you can see they look completely different even though it's the same basic technique. So if you want to learn how to make that, then keep watching. And now these are the things that you'll need. For this necklace I'll be using some nylon cord to create the braid with, and this is about a 1mm nylon cord and it's just a neon pink because that's the colour I chose to work with. And you don't have to use this specific cord, you can use other kinds of cord and even thicknesses as well. This is about 1mm, you could quite easily use a smaller thickness, and you can always just adjust the amount of cords that you use depending on the thickness you want your braid to be. So that's completely up to you. I'm just going to be using this nylon cord. And then also I've got this curb chain that I'm going to be adding to the design, and it's quite a big, large, chunky one just to add a bit of a feature to it. And then I have a cup chain here as well, or crystal chain or rhinestone chain, whatever you want to call it, that also I want to add and give a nice feature. This is going to add some sparkliness to it. And then the gemstones, or the beads that I'm going to be using, are these black agate faceted ones, and they're about a 12mm, these. And I just chose these because I thought they would go nicely with the other things I'm using colour wise and design wise. And again, you don't have to use this specific size of bead. This is just the size that I chose to work with to make a bit of a statement. You can quite easily use smaller or even larger as well, or maybe even a different shape. It could be quite cool to try something else like drops or spike beads or something. That could give quite a nice look as well. So that completely depends on your design choice. And then here I've got a couple of basic findings. It's just to finish off the necklace at the end. I've got some jump rings, lobster claw clasp and extender chain. That's just what I like to use. You can use whatever you want to use. And then here I've got some Kumihimo ends that I'm going to use to finish off the actual braid. And these are a 12mm, so they're quite large. You can get these in different sizes to fit the size of your braid that you end up with. So again, this is just the ones I'm using. You can get whatever size that you need for your braid. And then I've got a needle here, quite a large needle. And the main thing is that it needs to kind of have a fairly large hole, because what you need to do is use this for your cord. So that's why you need a fairly large needle with a large hole, because that's how we'll be attaching all these things to the actual braid that we're going to be making. So just some kind of needle, it doesn't have to be this specific same one, just a needle where you can use your cord with it. And then I've just got some glue here at the end. This is E6000 glue. This is one I really prefer to work with, especially when finishing off things like Kumihimo ends and braiding. It's really nice and strong, and it dries clear as well. So get your things together and then let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get all the lengths of cord ready. And I've already cut them here. So these are all the ones that I'm going to be using. As you can see, we use quite a lot of cord for this, but it's because we want the braid to be quite thick and substantial. So what I have here, and this is using the 1mm nylon cord, is I have 45 lengths of cord in total. And that means that we'll have 15 lengths for each strand for the regular braid, because what we'll be doing is complete regular 3-strand braid. So I'll have 15 of each on one strand to braid with, and that equals to 45 in total. And the length of them, I've made these 90 centimeters long, all of them. Now again, the length can depend on really how long you want your final necklace to be. The final necklace on this is going to end up being about 55 centimeters long. So if you want a shorter necklace, you can make these lengths shorter. If you want it longer, just make them longer. That all depends. What you'll find is the braid, the finished braid that you make with this, is going to decrease by about 40% from your original length of your cords. So that's just a little guideline. But mine are 90 centimeters long, and I have 45 of them in total. So you want to cut all your cords ready, and then what I'm going to do to start making the braid, we need to collect it together in one end and secure it in place. So to do that, I'm just going to get a piece of short length of the same cord, a piece of scrap if you have a scrap piece left. And first off, you need to make sure that all your long lengths here are kind of roughly together at the end, at one end. And then I'm going to get this scrap piece and then just basically tie a knot around the rest. Just a regular overhand knot. And then grab the ends and pull it tight. And just try and get it as close to the end as possible. Obviously not so it falls off, but just so you don't waste too much of your cord, because that will take up length from your final braid, obviously. Like so. And then you can just push it to where you want it to sit. And then I just keep doing this. Now they're kind of held together, so you can let go a bit more. But I just kind of keep going back around the other side then. Do another knot, back around the front again. And back around the back. And just keep going like this until I've used up this scrap piece of cord basically. Just to make it nice and secure and give it a little bit of something more secure and fastened at the end here. So just keep going until you feel like it's good enough. Roughly something like this. And then what I'm going to do is, before I start doing too much more, I'm just going to go in with my glue and use a bit of a toothpick or something, just a tiny little bit, and just put a little bit of glue onto the very last knot here, just to secure that in place so you can cut the ends off so you don't have them in the way. So just do that, prepare this, and then we're ready to start braiding. So I've now glued the ends and I've cut them off, and this is now nice and secure and it's not going to go anywhere, holding all our cords together at the end. So now, to get ready to start making the braid, what you need to do is separate all your cords into your 3 sections, because this is going to be a regular 3-strand braid that we're going to be making. So for this, like I said, I have 15 strands or lengths of cord in each section for the braid. So again, it's just, if you're using more or less lengths of cord, just separate them into equal sections like this. And then to start making the braid, what you do is just a regular 3-strand braid where you bring the outer one over and into the middle, and then from the other side the outer one over and into the middle. And that's all you do. Regular 3-strand braid, you just keep going from the outside into the middle, and from the other side into the middle. So this is obviously a really simple braid. Now what I will say about it, the braid itself isn't difficult, but obviously it's a little bit different to work with this because you have so many different strands of cord in each section, and that's just something you have to be a little bit aware of. So as I go, what I normally do to try and keep it as neat and organised as possible, because you don't really want pieces sticking out like this. I'll show you an example. Like having something sticking out like this. That's going to make it look really messy. So what I do to try and avoid that is, as I'm braiding, I kind of comb through that section with my fingers. So I comb through it and then bring it over, like so. And then there's a bigger chance that the section will stay nice and neat. So I comb it through with my fingers and comb it over into position, like so. So that's how I try and keep it nice and neat. And now if you do find that at some point it's a little bit messy, that's why it's best if you can keep an eye on the braid throughout as you go around where you're working, because then if you find something where it's a little bit messy, you can then sometimes you can then just pull a bit at the cords to tighten them up, but otherwise it's better just to redo that little section while you can, while you're still around there, rather than moving on and then finding it when you're done braiding. So keep an eye on that. And then also, what I do when I make this braid, because you've got to bear in mind that this is going to turn into a necklace, and a necklace has got a curved shape around your neck. Now if I were to just do a straight braid and then start adding my things, my accessories like the chain and the curved chain and stuff onto it straight in the same shape and then give it the necklace shape, it will kind of come out of shape and it won't really sit right. So what I do is when I braid, I kind of actually braid it into a curved shape. So it's just doing that as you go. Which way doesn't matter, completely doesn't matter. But I just kind of make sure that it has a curve as I'm braiding it and sticking to one side obviously. So you make sure to basically push it one way as you're braiding. So this side is going to be a little bit, you can kind of say these sections we're going to be showing a little bit more, and these are going to be a little bit tighter. And that's how you kind of get that curve. So it's going to hold its shape a lot better. As you can see, the curve is starting to form, and I'm braiding through with my fingers as I'm going. So you just keep going like this. Make sure you get that curve and you keep it nice and neat. And then just keep braiding all the way till you've used up all your cords. So I've now kept braiding till I reach the very end and I have no more cord left to really braid with. And as you can see, right from the beginning, my braid has got kind of a natural curve to it because of how I braided it. And that's going to help give it that really nice necklace shape. So that's what you want to end up with. And then here at the end, we need to seal off this end, secure it in place, and we do that the exact same way as we did in the beginning. So you just grab a piece of scrap cord again, and you put it around the end, and make a simple, regular overhand knot, and then tighten it right here at the end. So I've now got both my ends secured in place, and now what I'm going to do is actually finish off the ends, so that's done, and then all that's left to do is embellish the braid. So to do that, I'm going to get my scissor out, and then we need to cut off all this excess cord at the end. So I'm just going to go right next to where all the knotting I did to secure it ends. Try not to get any of that because you don't want to compromise the security of it. And then just cut through all of this excess, like so. Get it all out of the way, and there you have a much nicer and neater finish there. And then what I'm going to do is use these Kumihimo ends that I showed you to put outside of the end of this braid. And now again I'm going to get my glue, use the E6000 that I prefer to use for this kind of thing because it's really nice and strong and secure. And it dries clear in case anything kind of spills out, it will dry clear, so it won't really matter. And I'm going to get a toothpick and get a bit of glue on my toothpick, and I just like using a toothpick because you can actually get the toothpick inside of the Kumihimo end. It's also called, it's like a bell-shaped Kumihimo end. And you just want to get your glue in there, drop it in, get it right to the bottom, and then kind of distribute it around the sides. So you get the glue all the way around, down the bottom, and up the sides. You get a nice coating. You don't want to put too much glue, you don't want to completely fill it up with glue, because you got to remember that you're putting your braid in there, so that's going to take up most of the space. But you just want enough glue there to coat basically all the sides and for your braid to grab onto when you put it in. So that's pretty good. And then you just get your end of the braid and then put that into that end and then squeeze it in there nice and tight. Try and make sure you have kind of the right fit size of the Kumihimo end to fit your braid. And then just kind of swirl it around a little bit to make sure the glue gets distributed throughout and grabs onto your braid. And then you have your end attached there. And then obviously you need to leave that to dry. And then when it's done drying, you want to do the same thing to the other end, of course. Leave that to dry, and then when it's dry, we can kind of keep working on the braid. And I've now finished off my whole braid all the way around, and as you can see, it's got a really nice curve to it. And that's what we want, for it to lay nicely on the neck. And I've also finished off my ends with the 2 end caps, one on each end. And then now what we're ready to do is start embellishing it. So to start embellishing it, this is where you want to get your large needle out, like so. Because what we want to do is we basically want to sew into the braid to attach the things that we want to attach to it. And also, you'll need to cut a long length of your cord. I'm just going to use the same cord just to kind of make it blend in. And this length needs to be about 130 centimeters long, because we'll be using it kind of going back and forth. And then what you want to do is obviously thread that cord into your needle. So to start the embellishment, we first need to attach the long cord that we've just cut off and thread it onto the needle. Now what you want to do is pick a place on your braid where you want it to start. You can either choose to have it going quite wide around or just a little bit down at the front. That's up to you, that's personal choice. I like to have it about a little bit wide, so I'm going to pick a place to start from. Doesn't matter what side you start on. And then I'm going to turn it around, go to the back, and again, there isn't really a front and a back at the moment. You can kind of choose that now, and then that's what you'll be working with. So I'm going to turn it to the back, pick the place where I want to attach it, and then with my needle, I'm going to use that where you have the cord on already, and kind of get in between some of the cords here. You don't want to go like all the way through, you want to stay on the back side, and just get in between a few of the cords in your braid. And just might take a bit of maneuvering, like so. And I'm going to pull it through all the way until it'll come right towards the end here. And then all I'm going to do is tie a regular knot. And this is on the back side. This is where you choose the back side now, and this is where you kind of attach your cord so it doesn't show, like so. And a simple knot like that is fine, because what I'm going to do is get my glue out again, the same glue that I used before, and a toothpick. I'm just going to take a little bit of that, just a very tiny bit, just enough to literally cover the knot. We do not need much for this. So it's basically just enough to just secure that knot into place, so it's not going to come undone on us as we're wearing it or something at some point. So just put a little bit of glue around there and just place it. This is why I also like using this glue. It dries. When it dries, it kind of stays flexible, even though it's still really strong. So say if this is going to be against your skin or against some clothes, it's not going to be uncomfortable. Or even so, you can kind of, once it's dry, try and like tuck the knot in between your cords and the braid. So you secure that in place with a bit of glue, tighten it nicely, and then once it's dry, you can either cut this off or just leave it on till the end. I'll probably just leave it on till I've done some of the work at least. And then what I'm going to do is this long length that we have now, that's where your needle is on, we need to kind of get this cord into position to start attaching what we want to attach. So I'm going to kind of find my way through up to the side of the braid. So right now we're on the back, so if we turn it back around so it lies normally, it'll be kind of the bottom part of the braid, so the bottom side of your braid you want your cord to be coming out of. So just feed it through there all the way, like so. And we flip it back around to the front. And I'm going to be working on the front side because it's most important how it looks on the front, obviously. So just to kind of keep an eye on how it looks as we go along. So you now have your cord here coming out of the very bottom side of your braid. And so now it's time to start attaching the very first part of our embellishment. And the first row that I'm going to do is the chain. And this is the chunky curve chain that I showed you at the beginning. And then what I'm going to do is you have your length of cord coming out from the braid, and that's what we'll be using. And then the very first link in your chain, I'm going to go through that from the front, and then what I need to do is come back through the braid again to attach this. And now a little tip I want to say, as you're working with this and attaching things in general, both the chain but when we move on to the things, try and work with the braid in a curve. So don't kind of straighten out the braid while you're working with it, because when you then come to loosen it or let go of it and put it back into the curve shape, it'll kind of pull things out of proportion. So just try and work with it in the curve that you gave it when you made the braid, like so. So what I'm going to do is take my braid and then go back in through from the back, still staying on like the bottom side of the braid. This is where I'm going to be attaching all this embellishment to. So just try and get your needle through here. I'm just trying to avoid going through the actual cords and just going in between them, like so. And then pull it all the way through, and then as you're pulling it, it'll pull your chain up nice and tighter. And now this chain is probably going to be the most fiddly thing to work with, to attach, but that's why just take your time, maybe work with it on a table or something, have it lying down. It makes it a little bit easier. Also, so you kind of work with the curve of the braid like I mentioned. So that's the first link. We now need to keep going. So I'm going to go in through the next link. I just do one link at a time. So down from the front, out of the back, and then through the braid again from the back to the front on the bottom side, like that. Tighten it, and just kind of tighten it as you go. It'll kind of become loose a little bit while you're working with it, but tighten it as you go, and then obviously you can go over it again once you're done. So this is the first two links attached now, and this is all we keep doing. Make sure to work in the curve, go through the next link from the front to the back, and then you can just grab the cords in your braid from the back to the front. So that's how I'm going to be attaching the chain. So it's basically just sewing it on, like so, all the way down, and you just continue until you reach when you have it lying in full shape. You can kind of see, or you can even measure if you want to, so you get it fairly even, so you finish on the other side roughly the same place that you started. So I'm now finished attaching the rest of my chain to my braid, and then I've reached the point where I feel like when I lay it down that on both sides it's pretty symmetrical, so it's pretty even on both sides. And then I've attached my last link the same way. I'm not going to tie this off yet, because before I kind of keep working with that, I just want to get rid of the rest of this excess chain, because I now know where I've finished it. So just cut off your link of your chain, or open it if you have one you can open, and then we'll continue working with it. So I've now removed the rest of my chain, and all I have left is what's actually on my braid. So now I'm just going to finish off this end of the chain, just to proper secure this in place. And I've already gone through every link once, including the last link, but what I'm going to actually do is go through the last one again, because if you just look at it now, you can see that because this end is loose, that I've only attached it down here, it's kind of a bit loose and flip-flops around a bit. So I'm going to go through it again to kind of grab this very end of it as well. Just in the exact same way, just making sure that you're going towards the end of it. Like so. And then now it's time to switch around, and I'm going to come down and we're going to start adding our beads underneath this chain. So what I'm going to do to attach my beads underneath the chain is I'm going to keep using the same length of cord, which is why we made it so long at the beginning. Now I'd rather do this, you could easily make them shorter and just every time you attach a new thing, you start with a new piece of cord. But I just try and prefer not to make the whole thing in one length, just to avoid as many knots on the back as possible. This will make it a lot neater on the back and seamless. So what I'm going to do is get into position so we can start adding the beads. And then we've just gone around the last link of chain twice. So what I'm going to do now is go through it again from the top. Like so. But then I'm going to go through it, but through the loop as well, before we completely pull it tight. Because it's going to help secure it in place, so it doesn't move around too much, and everything kind of sits in place the way we want it to. And then you just tighten it. And also that'll help move it down this side of the chain, like so. So we can then start adding in our beads. So I'm now in position, and then I'm going to get my needle and put a bead onto there. So obviously you want to make sure the beads you use, the holes are large enough to take the cord. And I'm going to drop it down. I'm just using these black agate. And then what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to go into every single link now, because what you got to think of is these beads are quite big. So if I went into every single link, it wouldn't quite match up, it will kind of bunch up together and there wouldn't be enough space for them. So instead of what I'm going to do is go into every other link the whole way with one bead per every other link. So I've just added this one. I'm going to then go into the third link from the end, so go 2 links across, and go from the back. And don't worry too much about it being a bit loose now. You'll kind of tighten it up as you go, and then when you get further it'll stay tight. And then I'm going to go through it again, the same direction, the same link, like so. And then to kind of help secure it in place, to stop it from moving too much, I'm going to come through the cord where the bead is attached. So it's loose, it looks something like this. So going back through there is going to help loop it so it kind of sits in place, so it stays where you kind of want it to sit, like so. And then just pull it until it's tight enough, until it sits right. Something roughly like this. So that's the first bead. So I'm going to put on the second one, the next one. Bring it down just like before. And then that's going to sit in the next section. And again, I'm going to go over 2 links. So not to the very next link after the one you just looked through, but 2 links after that. And come through that from the back. and go through it again from the back the same direction. So you've basically gone through it twice, and then I'm going to go through that piece of cord or the loop where your bead is. And then that's the second bead attached. And as you can see, by using the same spaces of links, you're going to make sure that these beads sit quite evenly throughout. Whereas if you kind of went through each link with some beads, or you went 2 chain links or 3 chain links, it will be quite uneven the whole way through. So that's why I make sure I go through every other link every time I add a bead. So that's just a way to keep it even. And again, just try and make sure you work with it with the curve so everything sits right when you're done. So just keep adding your beads like that all the way back over to where you started adding your chain. So I've now continued adding my beads all the way around till I reach the very end, and I'm back where my chain started. And then what you'll see is at the very end I've attached my very last bead to the very last link of chain. And then that's going to then also reassure that this whole thing is going to sit nicely and securely in place and not kind of move around and flop around while you wear it. So now we need to finish off this end, because as you can see there's only a little bit of cord left, so we can keep going with the embellishment. So to finish off this end, I'm going to grab my needle with the little bit of cord I have left, and again I'm going to kind of move this to the back because we need to attach this very end to the braid and then secure it. So basically do what we did in the beginning to attach it, just in reverse. So I've now glued it and let it dry a little bit, and I'm now going to go in and cut off the excess here, just to get rid of these ends. So this part is done now. And we can turn it back around. And there you have this part of your necklace, where we have attached a chain first running along the first row, and then our beads. Now if you wanted to, you can quite easily stop at this point, or we can add in a bit more embellishment. So what you can do, and what I'm going to do, is add a bit of embellishment on the top side as well. So on the top of the braid, opposite the bottom ones that we've already added. And you can obviously do a few different things on there. It's completely design choice of what you want. You can either use some smaller beads on here, like what I showed you in the intro that I did on that one, and that'll add a bit of a feature on top. Or you can use something like this, like a crystal chain or rhinestone chain, and then feed that, attach it so it lays on top like this, also like the one I showed you in the intro. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to attach this chain. So to start that embellishment on top, we're basically going to do the exact same thing. So first you want to cut off another piece of your cord, and this is just roughly about 70 centimeters or so. It's probably going to be more than what you need on top, but rather have too much than run out. So cut that piece of length off, and then again I'll just attach it to my needle. And then I'm just going to turn it around to the back, because first we need to attach this cord again, just like we did originally at the bottom. And what I like to do is, I already know where I'm going to start because I'm going to use the bottom embellishment as a guideline. So I'm just going to start on the very opposite side in the same place. So now that I have my cord in position, I'm ready to start adding in the chain. But before I just bring it in, because it's going to be quite fiddly to sit with, I'm just going to prepare the first loop. So it's coming out towards the front, so I'm going to go back around the side of the braid from the back, and then I have my loop here. And now that that's ready, I'm then going to bring in that chain and place it right here. And what you find with this type of chain is that it has little spaces in between each one, and that's where we want the cord to sit. So that's how we're going to trap the chain in place. So you place it and then you pull it tight, and then that's going to trap your chain sitting right there where you want it to sit. Now obviously we want it to not sit down flat like this, we want it to stay up on its side basically. So what I like to do is just go around it one more time, especially at the beginning, at the end as well. I always like to double secure it basically. So just go through one more time, make sure the cord gets trapped in the right place and tighten it nicely while holding it so it sits exactly how you want it to sit. And there you have basically the first link of your chain attached. Then what you need to do now is move on. So I'm just going to get my cord in the right position. So it's coming out from the front, but in front of the next space basically. Again, still, so it's coming out of the front. So we're just moving it now, just because we just want to get that first link secured. And then we're right below the very next space here. And we're basically going to come around again, around the chain and then back to the back side. And coming out of the front. And then as you're pulling it, make sure it stays and gets tightened in between those links in that space. Like so. And like I said, I'm just going to go through and do the same again. So twice in every space. Just for the security, and it's more likely to stay in place. And then not flip on you. So stay sitting the way you want it to sit. So that's all you do basically. Keep going the same way. Move down. So you're in front of the next space in between your links of the chain. And obviously when you do your second go around, you can just purposely direct your needle so you come out of the right space. And then you just continue like that. And what I normally do with this chain as well, the same with the other one, I just work with the full length that I have, because normally it's not meters and meters that you have of this. It's just so you know, I want to make sure that I don't cut it off before, because when I get to the end on the other side, I don't want to end up having cut off the wrong amount, so I might be a little bit short. So I don't cut off this chain until I reach the very end on this side. So I continued adding my chain all the way to the other side. And this is the back side that I'm on right now, because I've finished off my cord already as well, just the exact same way. Tie off the end, put some glue on, so that's nice and securely in place. And then now, because we know that we've finished using this chain, I'm going to then just go in and cut off the excess. And with this you have these little spaces in between that's connected by a little link, and that's what you want to cut through. Like so. And then you have your chain attached as well. You turn it around to the front. And then you have your crystal chain here set nicely on top, adding that extra little feature of embellishment. And now all that's left to do is put whatever findings you want to put on the ends here, if you haven't done that already. So I'm just going to put on my jump rings, my clasp and my extender chain. So I've now attached my clasp, and it's now fully functioning as a normal necklace to wear. And then this is the final look. And you can obviously do whatever design choices that you want, and I've just shown you how to add a few different kinds of embellishments, where you can choose whatever you want to use of materials. So this is the final piece. So I really hope that you enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make these wirework spiral earrings. And this is what they look like. So they dangle quite nicely from whatever earphone you choose to use. And you can obviously make in different sizes if you want to. This is just the ones I'm going to be showing you. So if you want to learn how to make them, then keep watching.